and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Veritas News. Today, I'm doing my geography project on Madagascar with my grandma here. She lived in Madagascar, and I'm asking her some questions. So, here we go, folks. Question number 1. How long did you live in Madagascar?
I lived in Madagascar for not very long time, and I was very young. I was 2 years old when we arrived, and my mother and father were missionaries to Madagascar. So they worked in Madagascar for about 2 years, and I was the oldest child, and then my brother was 2 years younger, so he was just a baby. And at the very end, just before we left, my little sister Dawn was born. So there were 3 children that lived in Madagascar. And let me think now. Oh yes, he got sick. You know, Madagascar is an island country. It's off the coast of Africa, the east coast of Africa. And they have a lot of tropical diseases. So my father, who would be Sam's great-great-grandpa, got malaria, and so we couldn't stay there. We had to go back home.
What are some landforms in Madagascar?
Well, Madagascar is the 4th largest island in the world, and it has a lot of different geography, lots of different landforms. There are mountains. Well, there's the ocean that goes all the way around it. There is tropical rainforests. There's dry, arid deserts. There are mountains. Did I say before? I think so. Anyway, there's about 4 different landforms that you can find in this island country.
Cool. Next question. What is the climate in Madagascar?
Well, just like the land has got a lot of variety, the climate does too. Now, they never get snow because it's way down by Africa.
Yeah, it's an island.
It's an island, right. So they don't get snow, but they get some cool weather, and then they have very hot, humid weather in the kind of like jungle geography, because there's just all kinds of jungle forests and cactus plants that are in the very dry parts of the country. And of course there's no water, so it's dry, no rain. So it's really...
Is there more than one climate?
Well, I guess you'd have to say there is. Yeah, there's really tropical hot climates, and then there's dry desert climate, and then there's kind of the colder, cooler in the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's how many climates?
Well,
Ish. Like how many different
I would say
areas?
About 3 different climate zones.
What's the main religion in Africa?
Well, they have different religions. You know, they have the tribal religions, the ancient religions that go way back in their history. And then people like my father and mother came over as Christian missionaries. And so they started Christianity there, and our particular Christianity was Lutherans. So they helped the native peoples build churches and taught them how to worship and to read the Bible and do things like that. But then also in the country there are lots of Islam religion, because there's Muslims in Madagascar as well.
So the main religion is...
Well, I think it's about half and half. I think it's half Christianity, half Muslim.
Okay. We'll put the official religion. Next question. If you've seen the movie Madagascar or any one of the movies Madagascar, you've known that they have some really cool different wildlife. So do you remember anything like that?
Yes, Madagascar has this reputation of having the most exotic and different kinds of species of animals and plants, really, in the world. Because they were this island that was isolated from the rest of the continents, and so they have these animals that you can't find anyplace else. Like maybe in the movie you saw the lemurs, you know, these jungle animals that swing through the trees, kind of like monkeys, and they've got great big pop-out eyes.
And when I was researching my local, is it true that you can only find lemurs in Madagascar?
Right, unless that's the only place that they're found and that they can exist, really. Occasionally you'll see one in a zoo, but in different countries.
In wildlife,
but,
that's
yeah,
okay.
but they're native in the wildlife. And another thing that I've talked to Sam about is that from my memories is that there's lots of bats, you know, because there's so many different insects and things. They need bats to control the population of insects, but of course they come in everywhere. So when I went back and visited the church that my father had built and used, oh my gosh, you just smell the bats all over. And when I was a little girl, I still kind of think that I remember that my father came up to my bedroom and had to chase bats out of my bed because they are all over. Yeah.
And then why do they have such exotic places? Because there's like, I mean, animals, is it that because there's like no hunting? And since, you know, they're not like connected to a continent, there's less hunting and less things to kill them, like pollution and things of that
Yeah,
matter.
although, right, that's why, because they're isolated, so that the human population doesn't do a lot to them in the beginning. But now, unfortunately, and they just have the right climate, the right kind of trees that these animals can be in.
'Cause, I mean, I
or
guess
the
they have, like,
foods that they can eat.
3 of them, so they can
Yeah.
pick and choose where they want to go.
Exactly. But unfortunately now, because Madagascar's a very poor country, they're probably the 20th poor country in the world. So the people, they don't have enough food to eat, they don't have enough wood to keep themselves warm, to build their houses, all that kind of thing. So they've started cutting down their forests, and it's a real problem.
Deforestation?
Yes, it's an environmental deforestation, and that is really harming the whole country. So that is kind of, they're very worried. They send biologists down there all the time to try to figure out how are we going to preserve these animals that only exist in Madagascar.
Yeah. Okay. What's the economy like in Madagascar?
Well, like I said, it's a very poor country, so they don't have a very strong economy, but that they have in their country that they make a living off. Some of them are cattle people. They raise these cattle, but they're very different from our cattle. They have a big hump on the back, on their back, because they exist in the desert and they don't have much food. So it's like a camel. They have to store that fat and their water in their humps. And so, but they're very scrawny looking cattle. They're not big fat beef cattle like we've got in our country.
Sounds delicious.
And then the other, they raise a lot of rice up, especially close to the mountains, and it's kind of like the country of Vietnam. The landscape looks a lot like that, and they raise a lot of rice, and that's the main part of their diet. They eat rice for breakfast, rice for lunch, rice for dinner. That's the main food.
Yum.
And what else do they do? Oh, just recently, some Canadian companies have come to Madagascar because they've discovered nickel. And so that might be a better way for them to make some money. But also what is important is tourism, because they have all these exotic animals. A lot of college kids even come down and study, and people that are in science and zoology and all that, they come and tour Madagascar.
Do you know if like that they're mining nickel, is that a good or bad thing, or do you really know?
Well, there have been some problems, you know, because mining can destroy the ecosystem. So they're having some struggles with that too. Yeah, they're trying to control it.
Do they have a government? If so, what is it like?
Okay, they do have a government. They are called a democracy. You know, like the United States is a democracy. They used to be controlled by the French people, so their language is both Malagasy, and then the educated people speak French as well. But they're independent from France. They elect a president every so often. But I wanted to show you.
Is that like every 4 years? Or is that every 2 years?
I'm not
or is it
sure.
Sort of whenever?
I think it's kind of whenever, because
Do they feel like kicking them out?
Exactly. They don't have the elections set up like we do. It's a little bit different. And I wanted to show you because they just have a new president, and now the Malagasy people have the longest names that you can ever imagine. And this new president, his last name has 19 letters in it. And I'm going to show it to you, or maybe you can take a picture of it. This is the last name of the new president. And all the TV broadcasters, everybody are trying to learn how to pronounce it. Can you imagine? Say that. And I wrote it down. This is the way you say it. Rajwanarimapianidad.
Raji Napi Minko.
So anyway, but a lot of them have these really long names. It's just part of their culture. And their money, they have beautifully colored money. We'll show you some of that later. And stamps and different things that they use.
Okay. Cool. I thought this was kind of cool because she has been back a couple times, like she said. So she picked up these, and these are wallets that are from their country. And this is kind of neat because they open this way. Like your money goes in here, and then you stick this thing over. Wow, these are hard to work. And then you stick that thing back over, and it's also in a different color. And this is woven by like somebody, right? Like it's not like a machine or whatever.
Hand woven, right?
Hand woven. And imagine how long that would take. That's pretty cool. So that was kind of cool. And she has a couple things.
Okay, then I want to show you some. They have a wood that they get from some of the trees in Madagascar. And it's very, very hard wood, so it's hard to carve. And this is just a little kind of a souvenir. It's a little tray. You can put paper clips in there, or pins or something that you wanted to save. But it's cut out or carved out in the shape of the island of Madagascar, so it looks like that. And then this is a plate, and if you could touch it, you'd realize how hard this wood is. You can't even pound a nail into it. But yet these people, this is quite old actually. It came from my father, so it'd be back in the 40s. And each face on this is different, and it represents the different tribes in the island of Madagascar that exists. I think they have about...
Rush me on a plate.
Yeah, exactly. They have, I think they have maybe 10 to 12 different tribes, and so they have different facial features.
I wonder if this would be like harder than like stone, because sometimes you can pound a nail through stone, but you can't.
Well, maybe.
You can't do
I
this.
don't know, but it's very difficult to work with.
Thank you for watching this episode of Veritas News. Thanks to be here. Thank you. Any last words?
No, it was fun to do with you, Sam. Thanks.
I know I've learned a lot about Madagascar. I hope you have too. And see you in the next episode.
Soldier Boy tough.
Did we do it right? Do we need to redo this?
Soldier Boy tough.